Hey folks, Jonathan here, out here messing with the 59 Triumph drag car. I wanted to show you, I did pick up some tires. These are brand new. These are Firestones. They are not radials, but they are tubeless. I think these are repops also of the original old tires, but they're brand new, no cracks, nothing. But anyway, they're the right size what I need for the front of this car. So we'll probably just run it with the black walls out, but them are definitely old school. But buddy of mine gave these to me for free, so I don't have any money in them. And you can tell he does a lot of body work where his shop's at. That's why they're all dusty. And let me see. I think we're gonna go ahead and see if we can get this engine moved back. We've got to make the new mounts for the upper A-frames to get the A-frames level, or more level. And I was debating on this spring. We need to raise this up about an inch, and you know, there's three different ways I can do it. I can make a block to go in the spring, but if I do that, I'm afraid it's going to collapse my spring too much. We don't want it to come down and bind before the frame actually bottoms out of the car. Then let me see, we move it here, we'll run into bolt issues. So about my only way is to make a new bracket for the bottom A-frame and bring this shock up higher. And go ahead and you know, figure out what we need to do on the upper A-frames, and we'll get them made and finished up, or boxed in, whatever we're going to do with them. And the upper is not really as critical as the lower. The lower is the ones that are, you know, taking all the heat. So we're also going to pick the engine up, move it back 4 inches, and like I said, we've got the rear coilovers to get mounted. I really need to get at that. Once I get all that done, I can go ahead and pop this body back off, engine out and all, get everything welded up on the frame and finished up. I have got to go get a new welder. I've been putting it off. I hate to do it, but I'm going to go buy a brand new one. And hopefully I can afford to buy a brand new one, let's put it that way. But yeah, my welder is just, it's starting to sputter real bad, giving a lot of trouble. And I mean, it has been for quite a while. The longer you weld with it, the worse it gets. And you know, I've overworked it. I mean, you know, you got a duty cycle, and I've surpassed that every time I've welded probably. So anyway, the rack and pinion, you know, to get rid of our bump steer, basically what we want is, if you go from the center of the A-frame to where this mounts, well, not necessarily where it mounts, but the center of the tie rod end, you want basically the same height. In other words, what you want is your outer tie rod, well, your inner tie rod, outer tie rod, and the shaft to be the exact same angle as this lower A-frame, and that'll take care of our bump steer problem. So I think we're going to have to raise our rack and pinion up some. Our engine's going to be behind it, so it's not a big issue, so we can do whatever we need to do with that. You know, bring it on up, and shouldn't be an issue. And I was worried about that before. That's why I didn't make any, or I didn't weld this bracket at all in. It's just stuck in there and bolted, and because I had a feeling that I was going to have to do some changing on it. So anyway, we're going to get at it, and I think I'll get this thing raised up a little bit first. I wanted to show, I made a little piece to go on here to collapse this coilover down so I could change out the spring on it. We changed it. We're going to try it and see what happens. Hopefully that's going to stiffen it up enough to keep it from sitting quite as far down. I'm trying to get about an inch out of it, so we'll see what happens. Alright folks, we have got the engine moved back. I've got the springs on. I like them. It's going to work out just fine, just like it is. We've got a lot of suspension travel. It's not too hard, it's not too soft. So we ended up using the chrome coils, or chrome coil springs that came off of the coilovers I bought on Craigslist. So we've, you know, like I said, we've moved the engine back, and I think that's going to work out really well. Did a little work on the rear transmission mount, and we'll keep at it, but every once in a while you gotta take a break from messing with stuff. Kind of aggravated. You know, you get to a point where you don't know which way to go and what to do next. You know, I need to do the back, and still got stuff up toward the front I need to be working on. But anyway, here's what I'm going to do. I don't reckon there's a whole lot of stuff I'd rather do. Take a ride in my old car. Okay, I'm back. Alright, what we're planning to do, or what I'm planning to do, I'm going to move them A-frames up a little bit still at the inner, and I think it'll be fine. We'll make our plates to bolt our upper ball joint on. We've got, you know, the caster camber both right, and then of course we'll get the toe in toe out when we do the tie rod ends and stuff. I've got to figure out what threads these are. It's not an American thread, it's a metric thread. So I may end up having to come up with something for that. So for now we're going to go jump back on the back end, which I've got up, and go ahead and start trying to figure out about where we're going to mount these coilovers in the back. And we'll work with that and go from there. Okay, I want to see what the camber is going to do when I put weight on it. I'm going to bounce this thing a little bit. I probably won't be able to see it until I watch the video, but I want to see how much camber changes in this. I'm thinking it's going to lean in pretty hard the way the A-frames are angled right now, but we'll see. I'll also show you how much suspension this thing really has. It don't look like it's moving real bad, but I'll have to look at it on camera. Still think I'm going to have to raise the A-frames, the upper A-frames, to get the angle right on it. I mean, I can do a little finagling, but I guess it depends on how much it changes. You know, because I've got to make the plate anyway, so I can redesign them. So I may not have to move them. We'll see what it looks like, maybe in slow motion on the camera. Okay, here's our plans anyway. Try to mount them as straight up and down as I can get them. Almost in line with the ladder bar setup, or whatever you want to call it. So if I can get them straight up and down, that'll be perfect. But I think I'll go ahead and drill a hole through the frame here. I'll put a crush sleeve across it, and then we'll weld it in and all. But I want to see how this works out, and then we'll deal with our bottom mounts afterwards. Okay folks, I got the upper side of the coilovers mounted, and I've got two different coilovers on there. I'm trying to decide between the two. Probably the one that's going to give me the most clearance is going to be this one, and I can use either spring, you know, whatever springs I want, so that's not an issue. Both coilovers are in good shape. So anyway, and also let me say, I may end up changing my mind and running these on a cross member inside. So you know, this might not be permanent, so I'll decide one way or the other. And I may end up running a Watts link on it, which if you don't know what one is, I'll try to explain it to you maybe in the next video. and it will keep that rear end straighter as it comes up and down. And there's another way of doing it, a link from the front of one of your lower control arms back to the back of your other one, and it makes it adjustable. But I don't have clearance because of the frame. You know, my frame sits so low, and you know, my control arms are on the outside of the frame instead of the inside like they would normally be, you know, on a lot of cars. So, all right, didn't get much done, but did get that done. Put the engine back, and I think this is going to work out really well. And anyway, we hope it does. So, of course, when I edit this, I'm going to be looking at that and seeing how much that changes. You know, I may end up just remaking the A-frame at the top and not worrying about changing location. We'll see though. But I do like the springs. We're up high enough. We got, you know, about 4 inches of ground clearance, which is just fine. And you know, it's going to take a little bit to get it to come down and hit. But I mean, I'm sure that, you know, the way it's set up, it's going to bottom out on the frame before the suspension bottoms out. So we'll put us a couple of wear pads on there. We'll do that when we get everything welded and get everything together. And as for welders, I'm trying to decide between another Miller or a Lincoln, and there's not much difference in price. I think the Lincoln's about maybe $100 cheaper, but both of them are just too daggone expensive really. But I don't really have a choice, because you know, you don't want to weld stuff if you're not going to get a quality weld anyway. So that thing goes to sputtering and acting a fool, and I'm just not happy with it. And you know, I don't know that it would be worth my time and trouble to try to get it fixed. I think I'm better off just buying another welder. So anyway, it's an old one, so, and I've had it for a lot of years, so I can't complain about it. But not, you know, the service I've gotten out of it. But all right, I appreciate everybody watching, and we'll be back on this and probably just keep working on it and seeing if we can get as much done as we can. So all right, bye.